you. I want to get your take on this. Danny Nikolic, he said the steward was lying. The steward said he was lying. And he was just given, I think, life sentence or indefinite sentence or whatever.
Was he?
Yeah.
I didn't think he'd been sentenced yet.
Today.
I didn't know that.
Today or yesterday, am I wrong?
No. What happened was the ban... he was
extended,
he was appealing the ban.
And they found in favour of the steward.
And his appeal was rejected.
Rejected, right.
Based on... It's all about the threats, though.
Okay, Charlie, in a case like that, where there's no witnesses, there's no evidence, it's your word against mine, my word against yours, is that enough grounds to find someone guilty?
At that tribunal, obviously.
Well, that happens every day in criminal trials. It's
hold on.
Your word against someone else's.
If he appealed
usually, that sort of case in the criminal justice system would require, apart from the obvious I said and he said and I said and he said, there'd be evidence in relation to the context, there'd be evidence pulled in about what their relationship was previously like, there'd be a lot of evidence which would ultimately either corroborate or disprove or throw a doubt that the comment was made.
They obviously hate each other's guts. So it comes down to, did he say what the steward said he said, or didn't he? Is that all it takes?
No, but in the context of the racing tribunal, just the conversation on its own is probably enough within the tribunal rules.
Well, threatening his family and all that is probably what did it.
I think it did come down to who they believed,
That's
and
right.
I think that is the same as criminal trials. A lot of the
is
time.
it?
It is.
There's a reason.
Reasonable doubt? There's reasonable doubt.
The point is that what the prosecution hope to do in a criminal trial is have other pieces of evidence come into it to sort of say, well, that comment could easily have been made, and if it was made, it was most likely to be true because they hate each other for these reasons.
Yeah.
Whereas with Nikolic and the steward, all you hear of was that they had a conversation at the Seymour races, and Nikolic supposedly threatened this bloke at that point. Now, whether they'd had a relationship of some sort before that, and there'd been words said before, I don't know. And
can he appeal it to the Supreme Court?
I don't know. It'd go...
Well, you know better than me, Charlie, but sometimes you can. But usually when you're appealing sort of tribunal-related things, you need to find some sort of error of procedure.
That's right.
But I think I think it's a different standard with the tribunal, obviously, and you'll probably find that the what he's basically guilty of is Charlie's saying there might be a context there where they used to threaten each other or didn't like each other for different reasons, but I think you'll find a pretty strict liability, some of these tribunal rules where you're not meant to threaten stewards, basically.
And of course, the unfortunate part about it with Nikolic is that the tribunal has to back up its own officials. The steward's an official of Vic Racing. So, I have no doubt what the steward heard is what he's given to the tribunal.
And there's a corruption inquiry going on now that races are fixed and all that. Do you see anything happening? Is that going to be a whitewash? Is there going to be any evidence there, Charlie?
No, I don't know about a whitewash.
I can't believe you're suggesting that horse races aren't run according
to... I don't know about a whitewash. But
Charlie, how many colourful racing identities have you represented?
None. I'm not a punter, so I don't know much about the racing game. I know certain people within the racing game and who are lawyers, and they do all the representation there. Nothing to do with me. But at the end of the day, there's going to be an inquiry. There will be some sort of inquiry into what's going on.
Yeah, God help us.
And it'll go on forever.
Yeah.
But it hasn't really kicked off yet. There hasn't been any momentum.
What I know about the racing, what I know about the racing industry, I know about my research on Tony, and I know that Tony used to have this outfit called the Tracksuit Gang, and right. All these blokes that used to go and put big deep plunges on horses. There'd be 10 blokes in tracksuits, Tony's brothers and friends, and they put it all at once so the odds weren't noticeably different in that split second they're placing the bet. They'd also use it to launder money and various other things. But the Tracksuit Gang actually, and talk about the reaction of the state to fix things up, what ended up happening with tracksuits were banned from the track. Things like
That's how they react. They ban the tracksuit.
Problem solved. If you can't wear a tracksuit to a Victorian racing meet today, blame Tony Milford.
And so before we take our next musical break, he's gone in, he's developed properties in Brunswick, and he's done all these other things. What was his entree into the drug business, and how did that become big?
Oh well, they'd always been because of Tony's. You've got to go back a bit, and Tony's story is a sort of an immigrant story. You could call it an immigrant success story, depending on
which country you migrated from.
But the thing is, the boys were always fairly. He's got 3 brothers and a sister, and the boys were always fairly rough and tumble, even on the footy field. They were knocking about, getting involved in the security.
Tony Mockbell played footy.
Yeah, the boys did. Yeah, and
Nuggety halfback flanker.
Don't know, but Malad was the one to fear. Malad, apparently, there's an anecdote in the book, and Malad was sort of a pocket rocket. They're all kind of short but muscly and pretty intimidating. And Malad, when he was a teenager, would take on the refs and sometimes go a bit heavy with the refs. And there's an anecdote in the book about when their team lost and the rival team were on the other side of a sort of thinly veiled partition, and the rival team had the cheek to be singing their song because they won the game.
How dare they?
The Mockbells didn't like this and kicked down the petition and beat the crap out of them.
And on that note, we will cross the studio too. Thank you, Dee Dee.